we're all God's children, so we should just love and accept one another, get along, right? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, Day 3 of the Torah portion, Hazinu. We're back endeavoring Deuteronomy chapter 32. And it says in verse number 5, a twisted and crooked generation has corrupted itself. Their blemish, they are not his children. Do you do this to Yahweh, O foolish and unwise people? Is he not your Father who bought you, who created you, and established you? Isn't everybody God's children, Yah's children? Don't we all belong to the Creator? Well, not necessarily so. So the word would say. From the Stone Edition Chumash, the commentary here says, pertaining to verse number 5, the corruption is not his. True, there is evil and corruption in the world, but God does not cause it. People, not God, are at fault. That's quoting Rashi. Continuing, the Or HaChaim says, when Israel acts corruptly against him, it is their own blemish, because they proclaim themselves to be not his children, whereas when they do his will, God lovingly calls them his children. So, from the ancient rabbinical writings, then, there is an understanding that when we seek to do our own way, to do our own will, we are in effect proclaiming ourselves not to belong to him. Otherwise, we would be obligated to be obedient to him. When we obey him, he loves us and calls us his children. Well, doesn't he always love us, and doesn't he always want us to be his children? Well, let's ask the prophet Hoshea. Chapter number 1 and verse 9 says, then he said, call his name Lo Ami, for you are not my people, and I am not for you. Chapter 2, verse 4, and I shall not have compassion on her children, for they are the children of whorings. Chapter number 3, verse 3 through verse 5, and I said to her, this is Hoshea speaking to Gomer, you are to remain with me many days. You are not to whore, nor become another man's, and I shall also be towards you. For many days the children of Israel are to remain without a sovereign, and without a prince, and without slaughtering, and without pillar, and without shoulder garments or house idols. Afterward the children of Israel shall return and seek Yahweh their Elohim, and David their sovereign, and fear Yahweh and his goodness in the latter days. Interesting. Chapter 4, verse 1 and following. Hear the word of Yahweh, you children of Israel, for Yahweh has a case against the inhabitants of the land, for there is no truth or loving commitment or knowledge of Elohim in the land. Swearing and lying and murdering and stealing and committing adultery have increased, and bloodshed follows bloodshed. He's been reading our headlines. Therefore the land mourns, and everyone living there languishes, with beasts of the field and birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea are taken away. However, let no one strive or reprove another for your people, like those striving with a priest. And you shall stumble in the day, and this prophet shall stumble with you in the night. I shall make your mother perish. My people have perished for lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge. I reject you from being priests before me. Since you've forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, I also forget your children. So the answer is no. God does not always accept everybody all the time, especially when they are called his covenant people and they have turned their back on him and gone according to their own ways. The blemish is inside them. That is, that they seek to do their own thing. We're never guilty of that, right? Yeshua said concerning a group that was in front of him, claiming to be those that followed him, it says in verse Yochanan chapter 8, verse 31, so Yeshua said to those Yehudim who believed him. This is not a group of people throwing stones at Yeshua. This is a group of people following him, listening to his words, believing who he is. He said, if you stay in my word, you are truly my taught ones, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. That offended them. What do you mean, make us free? We've never been in slavery to anybody. I don't know what history lessons they had been learning. They were in slavery even at that point. In a great many ways, they were under the tyrannical rule of Rome. Had they not been in Babylon, had they not been brought out of Persia, had they not had many oppressing nations to overcome them during the days of the judges and the prophets? Later on, they said, we have Abraham for our father. Yeshua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. This is a sarcastic, rhetorical response saying to them, you're not his children because you're not doing what he did. Later, he says in verse 41, you do the works of your father. They said to him, we were not born of whoring. We have one father, Elohim. Yeshua said to them, if Elohim were your father, you would love me, for I came forth from Elohim and am here, for I have not come of myself, but he sent me. He says in verse 44, you are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you wish to do. Yeshua is saying this to people who say that they believe in him. It's not enough to say, I believe. Popular theology says all you have to do is just believe. And what we have trained people to do is to come up with a conclusion in their mind that says, okay, I will agree with you that Yeshua is the Son of God, the Son of Yahweh, and that he is the Messiah. I will agree to that. The proof of that belief, however, is not that you speak the words or affirm the words or repeat the words or even testify to someone else that that's what you said you believe. The proof of our belief is the difference in our walk. If we walk righteously, then what we say that we have believed pertaining to him has indeed germinated inside of us, taken root, and is now producing righteous fruit. If our walk does not match our talk, then we've only learned to rehearse words that make someone else feel better about ourselves. That never happens, right? We never say what somebody wants to hear just to appease them, to make them feel better. What do you really believe? Your belief, your gut level, foundational, absolute, concrete belief is demonstrated by your walk, how you live, what you say, what you focus on, how you treat other people. So we can raise hands, we can worship, we can sing, we can quote scripture, we can attend Shabbat services, we can do a lot of good and quality things. But if the day-to-day walk that we walk, again, the way we interact and have relationships, the way we conduct our business affairs, what comes out of our mouth, how we focus our attention, what we're striving for, what our goals and ambitions are, what we believe our destiny to be, all of these things are fruit hanging on our tree. The word says that they have a blemish. They have a fatal flaw. And it's because they've corrupted themselves. And though they profess one thing, they don't walk it. So let's walk what we talk. And let's talk a good walk and do it. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, shalom.